This podcast is brought to you by Penji. Penji is a creative subscription service that gives you access to pre-vetted, agency-trained creatives from all over the world. From graphic design to illustrations to social media management and web development, it's all included for one monthly price. It's time to say goodbye to the hassle of searching for top-notch creative talent. With Penji, you get quality and consistency delivered right to your inbox every day. Carefully crafted for you by humans. So meet your new creative team today. Head over to penji.co for more and enter the coupon code located within the podcast show notes.
Alrighty. Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining the Fully Managed podcast. Thank you, Sarah, for joining me. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on, Shannon.
Of course. So today we're going to start with a game. This is probably my favorite game of the show, so I hope that you enjoy it. If you don't, I'm so sorry. But this game is called Market Me This. So what I'm going to give you is a very obscure random product that I have come up with, and you're going to set up a marketing plan for it. Obviously, this is something that would be way more involved in real life, but something that like a generic template of what you do with this. You can go any way you want with it. Some people just provide like a little explanation about like the audience or whatever it may be. But yeah, does that sound fun?
Sounds great. Let's do it.
Perfect. All right. Glow in the dark bed sheets.
Ooh. I have a 4 and 6-year-old, 2 girls, and they share a room. And so when you said that, I was like, they would probably never sleep if I gave them glow in the dark bed sheets. So I'm probably not the target market for that. But no, it's great. So I love this. So we've been in business for 30 years, and what we do is recreate marketing strategies before we do any execution. So I love talking about this stuff. And so whenever we have like a new product or service, like glow in the dark bed sheets, the first thing that I would map out would be who's the target audience for this. And in a lot of cases, obviously, it would probably be parents of young kids because that's who's going to buy them, or maybe college kids that want some glow in the dark bed sheets too. And so, really the first thing I would do is map out like who's the target audience for this, and then from there, when I'm doing a marketing plan, the next thing I say is, okay, now that we have the target audience in mind, let's create some messaging that resonates directly to that audience. And so I would map all of that out. And then from there, when I'm creating a plan, it then comes down to, okay, what's the customer journey look like for this type of product? And so if it's bed sheets, probably selling online with ads would be the first area that I would go. And so the first stage of the customer journey is getting awareness or know, is what we say, because our hourglass is can you get people to know, like, trust, try, buy, repeat, refer. And so I would start looking at how can I get people in the know phase of the customer journey, and then really building that trust and relationship to nurture them all the way through. Then I would think of what content do we need to create to get bed sheets in houses of little kids. And then I would put that all into an execution calendar. So that's how I would really, honestly, any product that you would have thrown at me or service you would have thrown at me, I would have said, I would follow this strategic approach to really deeply understand the target market, the messaging, the journey we want to send them on, and the content that would resonate with them. And then I would be ready to go to work on actually executing a marketing plan from there.
I think that was a foolproof explanation. I think it really provided insight into your strategy for marketing, and also for specifically glow in the dark bed sheets, you considered the audience. I was thinking maybe because my mom saw what is Paranormal Activity, the first one that came out when she was like 16, and she slept with a nightlight until she was 40. So I was like, maybe people that are really scared of really old horror movies and never got over them, those would be a great market for.
Yeah, and it's a great point, because as I was joking earlier, I'm probably not the target audience for it. I think it really comes down to like understanding the why behind someone would want glow in the dark bed streets, and then being able to target them, because that's where people miss a lot in marketing. It's like, well, everyone needs these, all parents with kids need these, or whatever. And so it's like, that's not the case. It's really understanding like who wants glow in the bed sheets, and then why they want them, and then crafting your messaging and your story behind the product based on that, essentially.
No, that's really smart, because I do think that a lot of people do miss the mark for the audience that they're searching for, because they're, especially if they're doing it themselves or they're looking to someone and giving them advice on what to do with it, they're so proud of their product or service sometimes that they're convinced that it is for everyone, but that's almost never the case. So there are markets that it is for everyone, I suppose. But if you're not doing that targeting and you're not considering that, then you're not necessarily being realistic, and you might be wasting money on spaces that would never consider buying.
Yeah, absolutely. And then like once they do identify the target market, like a lot of people think of it as like just kind of generally understanding that group, but we believe you really have to understand them on a deep emotional level. Like what's their pain points? What are they trying to achieve? Like what would success look like to them? And so like going back to this example, like for someone that has kids that are afraid of the dark and they think this will help their kids, be able to sleep more effectively without them constantly having to come into the room. Like those are some of the stories I would tell. Like, are you constantly coming to your kid's room because they're afraid of the dark? Glow in the dark, so you're not selling the product necessarily, like the glow in the dark sheets. What you're selling is solving the problems for the parent that they might be having. And so that's really where you can be effective with marketing, is it's like deeply understanding that target group and what are their pain points and what is, success or whatever look like to them. And then being able to tell the story of you're here and we'll help you get there. We'll help you get over here ultimately.
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly what everyone should be considering when they're marketing a product or a service. That's definitely something that it's so strange, because I do hear it a lot in marketing that should be like the place in which you start, but oftentimes it's really missed, just because people aren't considering the whole journey rather than like a part of it, or they're not trying to fix a problem. They just think that this is just a good thing to have and you should have it. And it's not considering all of these steps of the process that would be able to convince someone to want this, and like having that story element, like, oh, does this happen to you? That's really crucial, because I think people don't like to feel like they're sold to, and I think everyone kind of in the marketing space has that general consensus that people don't like that feeling all the time. But to be able to relate to a story feels different than that. Like it feels like you're making a connection rather than you're being sold to directly.
Yeah, and to that point, like going back to this example, like parents of young children get sold a lot. Like people target them, they go after them. It's like you need all these products and services. You need to be doing all of these things, and it can be very overwhelming as a new mom. And so, like as a new mom, I wasn't sitting there being like, I need new products and services, but I was sitting there saying, gosh, now I have this new set of problems. How can I solve them? And so I think it's that mindset of like people don't want to buy more products and services. Like people aren't just like out there actively, most people looking for more stuff, but they are actively looking for problems or challenges that they're going through and solutions to help them solve those challenges. And so I think that's a really important thing to keep in mind in marketing and sales both.
Yeah, exactly. It's very much, sometimes I think a marketing campaign is so successful when I discover a problem that I had through an ad. Like I didn't realize that I had this problem until I saw this ad, and I think those are genius. I hate them. I hate them for bringing up a problem that I didn't know I had, but it's also it's smart, because especially in this case, like they might identify that problem. Like if we're marketing these for kids, people might identify that problem, like my kid isn't sleeping well because they're scared of the dark, and like a nightlight is too bright or something like that. The glow in the dark bed sheets are perfect. They might not realize the solution to the problem until that comes up for them in like an ad or something like that. And I think that is a great way to get into someone's head, which sounds manipulative, but also is smart.
Yeah, and it's the getting in their head initially, but then I think that's where a lot of people miss, if we're talking about ads specifically, is they'll design an ad and then send people to their website and they really haven't thought about the rest of the customer journey. Like if you're doing like a a less expensive product, like the whole customer journey isn't as important. But if you're trying to sell something that's like a higher end service, or something that you need a lot of trust and authority built in, that's where the whole customer journey is really important. So maybe someone enters your world, you get their attention by that kind of pain point ad. But then once they go into your website and opt in for email or whatever it might be, like, then the opportunity is to continue to educate, to continue to build trust, to continue to nurture, to then where they're at the point to actually move forward. So it's getting them interested in the first place, but then keeping them interested and engaged throughout the whole entire marketing and sales process.
Yeah, exactly. I think when people miss out on those touch points or that nurturing, I think that's where it's a huge detriment to them. It's not just, I agree. I think it was a great point also that like, if it's not a higher end product, I think that sometimes you don't have to do that. And that is, I think, if someone's used to looking at that process, they might think that they can do that for everything, and that's not necessarily true. And that's like a really great point to make. But I think that that is at a detriment to people when they don't actually nurture or like appear to care for their audience, because then that doesn't foster that trust or that transparency that people are looking for when they want to buy something. And a lot of times people can get tricked into buying something, but if it's not what they want, then that's not going to be great for the business. So
yeah, absolutely. A lot of people, when they come to us, a lot of small businesses, when they come to us, like, they'll be like, I just need more leads. And my response a lot of times will be, do you need more leads, or do you need to nurture people that are already in your world? Or do you need to create more revenue from your current clients by nurturing them and upselling and cross-selling? Because oftentimes, like, it's easier to move the needle as a small business by, nurturing leads, prospects, warm contacts that are already like expressed some level of interest in what you're doing. And then also for your clients, oftentimes if you can do reoccurring or retainer revenue with that group, if you're not doing that, like, that's where you can see the increased revenue a lot faster. And then when you layer on something like ads on the front end, it will help ads be a lot more effective because you have all that nurture and follow-up stuff in place. And so the answer isn't always more leads. The answer is sometimes taking care of your leads more effectively and then turning more of your clients into long-term revenue.
How do you determine what stage they are in the process when they come to you? What if they don't really know what they need? I think that's a common problem sometimes.
Yeah, that's where I think it depends on, again, what you're selling, ultimately. And so there are things, as I talked about earlier, like a product, an expensive product, where like there's not a lot of education involved. It's like, here's the product, do you want it? This is what it solves. But if you're like, so we're a marketing agency. And so when clients come to us, oftentimes they're like, we need more leads. And we're like, well, what you actually really need is a marketing strategy that will ultimately lead to more leads and increased revenue, but not just more leads, the right leads. And so when people come to us, a lot of it is, there are some clients that come to us that are like, I need a marketing strategy. We're like, great. Yes, you do. But there's other clients that come to us and are, I need more leads. I need a website. I need, whatever it might be. And we'll say, yes, you probably do need these things, but in order for us to do those things effectively, we need to start with a marketing strategy, and here's why. And so there is a lot more education around, like, they think their problem is one thing, but we'll help them realize that it's actually another thing that then can help us do that one thing more effectively, ultimately.
Yeah. No, of course. I think sometimes there's like this misunderstanding of what is wrong a lot of the time, because of course you can also, it's funny because you can also get complaints about something that isn't actually the problem or the sole problem, like a website, for example. You mentioned like someone's website can be not that great. But there's businesses that I interact with all the time that don't have a website or have a Facebook page as their website. And that doesn't mean that I'm not going to them. I mean, like, if something's good enough and, they're well advertised, or I know exactly what they are when I see their website, even if it's not beautiful, that's enough. And if they have those touch points and I trust that they're going to deliver what they say they are, then that's enough. Whereas they might think that their website's horrible and that's why they're not getting enough leads. But I think that if you have all these other things before that, that can determine whether you're having a someone who you actually want to use your service or your product, and rather than people that are going to turn it away or whatever that might be, like a quality lead.
Yeah, and the key thing you said there was like their website didn't matter as much because they already had that trust with you.
Mhm.
So we always tell clients, like, you don't need to be on absolute every platform because it's hard to do.
TikTok
You need to
for
understand, like, where are your ideal clients hanging out online? Where do they consume their information? And get really good at a handful of platforms, because as you said, maybe their website isn't that great, but they're actually like doing really well on different platforms and areas like that will then, make the website, a little bit less important in the buying decision. And so, for example, like, I live in Boise, Idaho, and if I'm looking, it's sprinkler season right now. Like, everyone's trying to get their sprinklers worked on. And so if I was going to find a company to come out and turn on our sprinklers and fix them, like, I would like go to Google first, and I would pick the company with the most reviews, or actually I would go to GPT now, ChatGPT these days. But anyway, I would find a company with the most 5-star reviews. And I wouldn't really probably spend much time on their website, because if they have 500 5-star reviews and really happy clients, like, they're just turning on our sprinklers. That sounds great. I'll hire them.
Yeah.
So I think it just kind of depends on, like, again, what you're selling, but then also determining, like, what platforms should you really focus on. And so for a lot of like home service, local businesses, reviews are absolutely essential, because people kind of go about it in that way. They turn to search, they read reviews, they maybe will end up on a website, to then determine to contact to move forward or whatever it may be. So again, I think it comes down to understanding where your clients are making the journey online, and then going all in on less platforms, but less platforms more effectively.
Yeah, even to speak to that, I always think about this instance where I interacted with this restaurant that I wanted to go to that was nearby me. And in one place, Google reviews, or rather reviews on my Apple Maps, are Yelp reviews. And
Yeah.
no one really uses Yelp anymore. At least I've found.
I know.
A certain age group uses Yelp. And what sucks for them is that when I'm looking up the address, I think a lot of times people just look at the review of that address or that business when they're looking up the address, because it's just easy to do that in tandem. Whereas when I go on Google, their reviews are significantly better than the Yelp reviews that are actually from years ago. Like, there's no recent reviews on there at all. And I think that's so interesting, because if I were this business, I would want my Yelp reviews to be better. I would maybe like put a sign up or in the front or something like that would want people to review Yelp reviews, only because if I'm looking to go there and I'm looking up the address, I think a lot of times people are doing that in maps, and that would be something that would be really significant, and they get more business from just having better reviews in this specific space. Whereas Google is maybe not as helpful, because that's like a destination rather than, like a business you're going to look up that, for example, someone coming to fix your sprinklers. You're not looking up where that is, because it doesn't matter where it is.
Yeah. I would argue for like a restaurant specifically, like, they should be focusing on any platform where reviews are, possible for local, because, for me, like, I use Google Maps and pull in Google reviews. And like, if I'm just like looking, I'll pull up Google and be like, restaurants near me. And like, that's how I'll approach it a lot of times if we're like traveling. And so like, people are, as your example, like, people are using both to find locations for restaurants. And so they should be going all in on both of those platforms, and then have a nice looking website to back it up, and an email platform, and be present on social media with like visuals. Like, that's for like a restaurant. It's like local marketing, it's SEO efforts, it's the website, it's social profiles, it's email marketing. And like, those are the things they should be focusing on, because those are what clients are using to make decisions, or customers are using to make decisions ultimately.
Exactly. There's so many steps of a process for just going to a business that need to convince you to even go in the first place, specifically with a restaurant. Exactly what you said. Like, if there's not, some people might be convinced by just the reviews. I know I have family members that just look at reviews and they're like, we're going, that sounds good. I don't have to look at the menu. That's crazy to me. But but there are but then there's the next step of like, let's look at the menu. Like, is this something that I would like? Is the menu even accessible? Sometimes that happens too, where you can't even find the menu. And then there's pictures of the food. Like, does it look good? Blah 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 blah. There's all these steps, and there's all these steps for every kind of person that is marketing themselves. It's just different steps, but they're all ways in which you're basically convincing a potential lead to want to use your product, service, business. And that is not something people aren't thinking about every step of the process often.
Yeah. Well, and that's where like the customer journey piece is so important in mapping that out for your own business. And so, I mentioned earlier, ours is the hourglass. So it's how can people get to know, like, trust, try, buy, repeat, and refer. And so a lot of people spend a lot of time thinking about like the know phase, like we need more people to know us and know us. But to your point, like, a restaurant might be found by someone searching in Google. That's how people get to know them. But then if they want to learn more, they're probably going to look at pictures, and they're probably going to go to the website, and they're going to look at the menu, and they're going to read reviews. And so that's where like the like and trust is happening. And then the try is, when they actually come into the restaurant and then they actually purchase something, is the buy. And then you want to blow them away with that experience. So then they come back, which is the repeat phase of the hourglass. They come back more and more each time, they're in the area. And then the refer stage for a restaurant is they tell all their friends that they had this amazing experience and they need to go try this restaurant, and they leave a review on Google that ultimately gets more people in the door. And so that's where you can't just think of the no, like I need more people to know me. Like you really, I encourage people to think through all those different stages, because that's where business will really grow, is when you have those referral sources coming in, and you have those repeat customers coming in that can then lead to more business on the front end.
Yeah, I think it's really difficult sometimes for the business owner or whoever it may be to see all those steps of the process because they're not actively going through them themselves. And so it is very helpful to have a marketing professional like yourself that can, explain or like go through what that would look like for someone, because I think it is sometimes difficult to get out of your head of that you've created something really great and that people should just want to interact with it, when there's a lot that goes into convincing someone to even try that thing.
Yeah. Yep, I agree. It is hard when you're in the business to think about your customers or clients' perspectives. And so that's actually one thing that we do when we're going through strategy with one of our small business clients, is we actually interview their clients and customers to learn about their experience with the client and the company. So we're asking them questions, like how did they find the company? What was their experience? Why did they decide to move forward? Did they look at any competitors? Like, why have they stayed with them over the years? And so we're really understanding like the experience from their customers' perspective to then help build out ideal client profiles and messaging for the business that we're working with. And so I think that's a really very valuable exercise to go through, is because when you're in the business, you think your product and service is great for certain reasons, but your clients might be thinking about it for completely different reasons that you're just not understanding because you're not, seeing it from their perspective, sitting in their shoes. And so I think that's a really great exercise, regardless if you worked with a company like ours or if you're just doing this yourself, is to actually sit down and have interviews with your ideal clients to understand their perspective, to then bring that into your marketing moving forward.
Yeah, I think that's genius. And I do think that I don't hear that that way of thinking from even marketing agencies very often, of like interviewing. I think that's incredible, because I do think that getting the customer's perspective is the best way to be able to market better and even improve your business most of the time. I think a lot of people don't consider their clients or their customers' perspectives as much as they should. There are a lot of things that you can learn from them if you want to even expand your business in different ways, like looking to your clients for what they're looking for. Because if you're offering something that they don't need, then how are you providing value? If anything, you might just confuse them.
Yeah. Well, and I think like we haven't dove down the rabbit hole of AI yet, but I think that's really where our role as marketers is going to shift. It's going to shift more and more to actually understanding humans and talking to humans and building relationship with humans, and then bring in different AI tools to help with some of the content production once we have that understanding of humans. And so, when we're doing strategy for clients, like we're interviewing the team of the client that we're working with, we're interviewing their ideal clients, we're having them record sales calls, all of these things, so then we can be more effective in our marketing moving forward. And so I think that's the role of the marketer that I would envision in the next few years, is more of like that human connection, and maybe moving some of our marketing to offline elements because of how AI is evolving what we're actually doing from an execution standpoint.
Yeah, I do think that human connection is really important regardless of like how much AI evolves. I think that incorporating it into different elements of marketing approaches is really important because it's something that's advancing, it's something that's not going away. So to be able to have that is definitely crucial. I think it's becoming crucial, at least right now, maybe not, because it's not as advanced as I think most people would. I don't know if I would say but it's not as advanced as it still makes mistakes. It can't replace a person in any way, shape, or form at this point. But it is something that I think we should definitely utilize to make different parts of the process better, especially for things that take like more tedious, like something that's more tedious. It's kind of a waste of time for a human to be doing at that point. So it's like very great that this is something that is a part of it. But it's cool that you mentioned that you don't have it incorporated yet. Is it something that you guys are looking for in the future?
Incorporated. So we are incorporating AI. Is that what you mean?
Oh, yeah. No, sorry. Yeah. It seemed like maybe I misunderstood.
No, yeah, we're all in on AI. Ultimately,
okay, fantastic.
I think, yeah.
I was like, that's the first time I've heard that, so I was really curious about like what.
Yeah. So what we're doing though is we're still holding on to like the human element. So like actually talking to our clients and talking to them.
Okay. I misunderstood the beginning statement with everything else that you said. I think that you. Okay.
Yeah. And so the way we're thinking about AI systems is it's helping us elevate our role to be more marketing leaders and not necessarily marketing executors. But I think there's a lot of small businesses right now that are struggling with, like, they're bringing in different AI tools, but they don't really know how to use them or how to set them up properly or how to be strategic about it. So for our clients, a lot of what we're doing is we're coming in and we're creating the marketing strategy to then help train their team on marketing, but also to train different AI tools on marketing for them moving forward. And then we're actually helping them set up an AI tool in their business that basically runs their marketing system and acts as like a marketing team member or a marketing assistant to help with things like ad copy, LinkedIn copy, everything, landing page copy, things that they're doing moving forward. And so we absolutely believe like we're all in, that's the way marketing is going. We've been involved in AI for a little while now, but the thing that is still missing from a lot of small businesses, they still need that strategy on the front end. They still need that marketing leadership. They still need the direction moving forward, because as you said, marketing tools can't just replace humans. AI tools can't just replace humans. I think the most impact is when you have AI with a human that has marketing experience. Like, that's where you can really move a lot faster and make more of an impact on some of this stuff.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. Sorry for the misunderstanding. I think it was the first statement paired with the rest that I understood. But I do think that's really cool. I also really love the element of like helping businesses use these tools in the future, because I do think that is really valuable. It shows that you truly care about your clients in a way of like you know that this is something that can assist them in the future, and it doesn't necessarily have to be you, but to teach them that is really lovely. Because I do think that a lot of people who are hesitant about AI, maybe they're like on the older generations, or maybe it's just they're not technologically savvy, it's something that intimidates them, whatever it may be.
Yeah,
it's something that, if it's taught, is not something that's too difficult. And I hope that it's something that can help a lot of people do a lot more in the future, especially with small businesses, because it's so difficult for them to be able to hire additional people sometimes in the beginning stages of their business. So to have that training as well with AI would be something that is really useful. So I commend you for even thinking of for the future of like training them as well, because I think that's lovely.
Yeah, I think it's important because I think more and more small businesses are bringing in these tools, and it can be completely overwhelming. Like honestly, every Monday when I check my email, I have like 6, 7, 8, 9 emails talking about AI and this new tool I have to try. And so even though I'm like deeply in the space, like it's still overwhelming to me. So for someone that's just getting started, like my best advice is to think about what are you trying to accomplish on a regular basis, like what's your strategy, what are things that you do routinely, and then start looking at, is there a tool that can help me move faster or be more effective on some of these things. An exercise that someone recently told me about that he recommends going through that I think is great. He basically has you audit your time, where you basically like make a list of all the things that you're doing on a regular basis, and then identifying like which of those skills is increasing in value based on AI, what's decreasing in value, and what's staying the same. And then for anything that's decreasing in value, to ultimately say, okay, what can I bring in from an AI tool standpoint to help automate in some of this stuff so I can focus on the things that are increasing in value. And so when I think about that for my time spent in our company, like I think what's increasing in value is like some of the training. We do a certification program for marketing agencies, coaches, fractional CMOs, and like that is increasing in value because people are having a hard time staying up to date, staying up to speed, understanding what's happening, understanding the changes in marketing. And so if I can continue to add more insight and value there, like that's becoming more valuable. What's decreasing in value that I'm working on a regular basis is like writing content from scratch, because I can do the stuff a lot more effectively by bringing in different AI tools that are trained properly. And so I think that's an interesting exercise to kind of think through, like what's going to become more and more important in your career path moving forward. And then what can you start delegating by essentially AI tools or assistants. But also on that note, like my advice is find one tool and go all in on it for a while, and then maybe evolve. Yeah. Because there's like, in my one tool would be ChatGPT. A lot of people like Claude too. I love ChatGPT. And so it's just finding one tool that's, fairly easy for you to wrap your head around and understand, and getting really great at it. And then maybe over time you can evolve to different ones. But I also think that's where a lot of people struggle, is they just start signing up for all these tools. They use each of them fairly poorly because they're doing all the different things versus just getting great at one or two. So that's my advice too.
Yeah, I think that people do fall into that trap of like the new shiny object, but something that is kind of, I think, difficult for anyone to navigate is new technology, regardless of what it is. So to go all in on one thing is definitely going to be more effective of your time and, not wasting your time, rather than going in on 8 different, it might make sense to, like, looking back to see, oh, I do need help in all these areas. This would be lovely to like automate all of these different things. But at the same time, if you're not effectively using them, then it's not actually helping anything. It's just making things more confusing. It might even be at a detriment to like getting clients because something isn't working properly, or you didn't train something properly, or you're not interacting with a tool properly. And if that's not helping and the old way didn't hurt, then maybe continue to do that and adjust slowly.
Yep. Start small, grow from there.
Well, I think this is a perfect note to end on. I think we covered a lot of topics in such a short period of time, so I thought that was really lovely. And I really appreciate you being so wonderful at just moving with me. I thought this was incredible.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on.
Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for listening and or watching. We'd be nothing without you. So I appreciate you joining and learning from us. Thank you so much and have a lovely day.
You've been listening to Fully Managed, brought to you by Penji. Check out the show notes to learn more about today's guest, and to learn more about Penji, the human-first creative subscription service, head over to penji.co. And by the way, if you're still listening, it would mean the absolute world to us if you were to share this podcast with a friend, and of course, subscribe.